Alright, Arrow fans, time to take a look at the final episode of the day, which is Fighting Fire with Fire. The scene opens with Ollie attempting to push through a room brimming with media on his way to his office. At the point when Thea, Quentin, and Dinah get inside, Thea says she's attempting to discover how it's spelled. Oliver answers that it was Prometheus. Indeed, he says on the off chance that he loses his office, Prometheus wins. Oliver rapidly chooses to come clean with the media, or possibly a form of reality. Alex requests that Thea make things directly with Susan Williams. She throws in and hands Oliver a letter of abdication, as he anticipates accepting the consequence for the concealment. Oliver will not take it. However, Chase cautions him that a denunciation could follow soon. Chase clarifies how the prosecution would function. City Chamber takes the vote and a larger part runs the show. Chase says that his leaving would be a simpler arrangement. However, Oliver rather requests that Chase speak to him with a reprimand hearing as his lawyer. In a flashback, Oliver and Anatoly are cornered. However, Anatoly conjures Brad by a rule to keep them alive. Oliver doesn't comprehend what's happening. However, Anatoly says he simply spared their lives for several hours. Chris clarifies his OT spheres to Renee in the Arrow Cave while approaches Felicity for help with Susan, as she got Susan terminated. Felicity additionally reveals to Oliver that she figures Oliver will beat the prosecution hearing. In the interim, Vigilante gets ready and focuses on Oliver Queen. Oliver strolls into the denunciation hearing and sees Susan, who's currently beginning her own blog. The consultation, which is broadcast, starts. Listening to the group watch back at the Arrow Cave. Oliver accepts a call from his alienated dad. Felicity shows Pandora to Diggle. Diggle cautions it can be utilized as a weapon whenever utilized it appropriately. At the reprimand hearing, the court affirms that Chase requested that he conceal the passing. Commander Pike of the ACO additionally affirms about Queen's decision with him last seen. As they leave the meeting, Chase says he'll attempt to persuade a chamber part to approach Queen to affirm. At that point, when they get in Oliver's limo, they proposes they guarantee Malone was degenerate. However, Oliver closes her down. Vigilante assaults the limo, making it crash. However, he follows Oliver, Thea, and Dinah moderate him down. Vigilante in the long run focuses on Oliver, who hears the police and escapes. In the fallout, Oliver has a blackout. However, every other person is to some degree okay. Chase appears and persuades him to go into a clinic, while Thea goes to the Arrow Cave to lead in the group in the chase for Vigilante. Shrek requests that Felicity go through Pandora to borrow soil and council person thought to be the swing vote. Oliver confers with Dr. Schwartz, who appears to know his way of life as Green Arrow. She suggests he can't leave the clinic for a couple more hours and prescribes he converses somebody pretty much all the detestable he faces every day. Antonio clarifies he required a proper court of sorts, in spite of the fact that if Antonio loses, he bites the dust. Oliver says they have discovered proof that Kovar's arrangement with Gregor just advantages Gregor, so he at least discovers said proof. Dinah finds a piece of Vigilante's advisor at the wrongdoing scene. She goes into Felicity and Curtis says he could utilize his T-spheres to follow it. Condition notes to Renee that Paul asked him to supper. She disappears at the wrongdoing scene and takes a bed of Vigilante's visor and Dinah. Some later, Prometheus tells Vigilante and loses him at the housetop. At the point when it's finished, Prometheus expels his cover and considers the police, revealing that he's actually Chase. Back at the Arrow Cave, Felicity lands Diggle regarding the earth she found in the council person. Diggle says that Felicity is losing her compassion, likely on account of Billy Malone's passing. Diggle cautions her that battling fire with fire would get her consumed. She has conversed with Pike about Star City's Vigilante issue. Hey, well, Dinosaur's Vigilante's visor piece from the station. Oliver goes up against Thea about the extortion. However, Thea says it's simply governmental issues. Oliver cautions her, yet Thea appears to be determined to play grimly to keep Oliver in office. In a flashback, Oliver breaks into Kovar's home and discovers records on Kovar's PC. Colonel Alex uses T-spheres to officially track down Vigilante. Diggle and the remainder of the group turn out to discover Vigilante and bring him down for the last time. Chase Rosen in Oliver's office says he can't get the city board to call Oliver to affirm. Chase says they need a symbol of atonement. So says to organize a public interview so they can blame the Green Arrow. Curse tracks vigilante structure directly over the road from City Hall. Oliver is going to give his question and answer session. They've said the vigilante is intending to kill him. They call caution Dinah. However, Oliver proceeds with the question and answer session in any case. As Oliver starts his question and answer session, Diggle Hall documents a tremendous attempt to stop Vigilante. Vigilante gets a drop on him, and Mr. Dynamite explodes one of his T-spheres. Oliver discloses to the press that he concealed Willem's homicide to keep the safe from discovering that Green Arrow was a cop executioner, since the city had lost such huge numbers of legends as of now. In the meantime, Vigilante shoots both Diggle and Wild Dog. However, Mr. Spectacular explodes his second T-sphere to take out Vigilante. They stroll outside in negative time to Oliver require the police discover and capture Green Arrow. Susan Elias goes to see Oliver and says that she landed her position back. Susan says she'll stay discreet. However, she gets hindered by Chase coming in to state that the board cast a ballot against impugning Oliver. Oliver says Thea the uplifting news. However, he discovers that Thea is stopping as she's getting exclusively profound in the political game. Thea turns in her abdication. In the last flashback, Oliver shows up at the Broadway court to clarify that Gregor took kickbacks from Kovar. That turns out enough Broadway against Gregor. However, Kovar deceives them and starts shooting at Ancheli and the others. Oliver tells the group that he says he had the civic chairman. However, Curtis is head of schedule to get together with Paul. In any case, when Curtis gets to supper, he discovers that Paul is separating from him. Felicity meets with her programmer companion and consents to join Helix. The scene closes with Chase standing up to Susan outside her vehicle and says he has the last chance to lead for her. That doesn't sound great. Thinking about he's Prometheus, whatnot. So let's take a look at some trivia surrounding this episode. The title comes from a line Diggle told Felicity regarding her involvement with Helix and what Oliver told Thea about her involvement in dirty politics. Felicity acknowledged this line whilst talking with Elena. After this episode, Thea isn't seen again until Honor Thy Fathers, 6 episodes later. The restaurant the Curtis and Paul meet up at is the same set for The restaurant the Curtis and Paul meet up at is the same set for CC Jitters from The Flash. The team treks Vigilante to a building directly across from City Hall while Oliver's about to give a speech. And he states it's Vigilante's book depository. Rosie says 6th floor is under renovation. Diggle White says that's where Vigilante will be. The show references the JFK assassination. Lee Harvey Oswald was also on the 6th floor when the Texas School Book Depository in which he shot Kennedy. And now finally, let's take a look at some goofs. The team treks Vigilante to the building across from City Hall, within hearing range, where Oliver is addressing the press. Vigilante fires on Team Arrow with an automatic weapon multiple times, yet no one at the press conference reacts to the sound of gunfire. However, it's possible that the cameras and voices affected the hearing. A laptop wouldn't contain a bank transfer because the transfer information is kept on bank servers. It may be visible by logging in via an employer-client login to see the accounts, but it's not actually kept on a laptop. The dates of the big transfers on the Broadway are from May 2016. The flashback is supposed to be in 2012. So overall, I think this is an interesting episode, and yeah, I'm upset that Paul and Curtis are separating, but that just what happens when you're joining with Green Arrow. So yeah. So overall, I give Fighting Fire with Fire 5 arrowheads out of 5. But anyway, tune in as we till next episode, Checkmate. So until then, in the words of Oliver Queen, you have failed this city.